My name is Ryan Chwansky. Thanks for joining me for another special series right here on the Bluffton Buzz. We are interviewing everybody running for mayor and town council. Today, I am joined by Joe Castagnino. Did I get it right?
You did. Awesome. Yes. Awesome. I feel like everybody in the South has an easier time than up north. It's very, very strange.
Well, Joe, thanks for joining us. And before we get started, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Greater Bluffton Chamber of Commerce for helping us out. They allowed us to use their platform to get out to all the great businesses. So this interview and all the others will go directly to their inboxes. And thank you to the Chamber. And in full transparency, I'm on the board, but it was still a big ask, and they came through, and it's all working out. So thank you so much. Joe, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time out today.
Cool. So, my biggest thing and my biggest reason for doing this is when I saw the names start showing up on who's running, I was like I knew of you right. through our mutual friend or mutual barber, right?
Which yeah, does.
And I knew everybody's name. I knew Larry Toomerage because I knew the factory, and I know the restaurant. I know Bridget Fradrich from last time she ran. I heard the name. I knew the names.
Right.
I didn't know the people. So I was like, well, I've been here since 2019, and a lot of the folks that are here now came after me by a year or two. A lot of people don't know who anybody is, so how are they going to vote on something?
Agreed.
Right? It's just going to vote on, I like the guy's
Absolutely.
name or not, right? Which is a weird way to vote, but that's what a lot of people are going to end up doing if they go vote and they don't know who you are. So that's why we're doing this today. I believe a voting person should be an informed person, and that's why we're doing this. I implore you to watch these videos. Make sure you share them with your friends. All right, Joe, so you're running for mayor.
Yes.
Have you ever ran for a political seat before?
Well, right now I am the executive committee for my precinct, which is 4C in Bluffton. It basically covers Hampton Lake and the One Hampton Lake apartments. So I'm a precinct leader. So that, as of now, that's the only position I've held that is an elected role.
Okay, cool. So let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
All right. I spent my entire life until moving here in New Jersey, born and raised. Lived in several various towns and areas, but the whole time I was in North New Jersey.
North Jersey.
North Jersey, yeah.
Okay. When did you come to Bluffton?
In 2020, we moved here in July of 2021. That's when we had the moving truck deliver our stuff. But we started looking in this area the previous year, August of 2020. Is when we started checking out areas in South Carolina.
Why Bluffton?
Great story. We, during the lockdowns, we had a couple vacations canceled on us. We would go to Punta Cana a couple times a year, and they were all canceled, obviously. So it got to a point in August of 20 that my family and I needed a getaway. Everything was shut down up there, so we were going to take a week in South Carolina. The plan was to spend half a week in Hilton Head for vacation, just family vacation, and then the other half we were going to go look at areas up in Charleston area, Mount Pleasant, Somerville, which is where one of my friends live. So we came down here, didn't know anything about Bluffton, and one of the servers in Sonesta, that's where we were staying, said, "Hey, are you guys going to check out Bluffton?" And I said, we never heard of Bluffton. Where is it? And she said, "Well, you drove through here to get here." So I said, "Okay, great." At the time, I didn't know that most of the stuff here was gated community. So we just left Hilton Head and pulled into Rose Hill, and there was a gate. So we didn't know what to do. But we drove around a little bit, and I was pretty much sold immediately. I loved it here. I thought it was special. So that was it. I was sold at that point.
Cool. So what career are you in? What careers have you been in? Has it been the same thing most of your life?
Yeah, I have been in the tech industry my entire life. I've been at T-Mobile for 23 years now, in various positions from business development to account manager. Down here, my role is on the prepaid side of the business, so I manage the accounts for our dealers and wholesalers to sell our product.
Cool.
I meet with DMs, create strategies, and that's kind of what my daily routine is.
Okay. So you chose the Calhoun Street dock. I gave everybody the rule to pick your location.
Yes.
This is why you picked, or explain to me why
Absolutely.
you picked this location.
So, as I stated before, we were going to look in Mount Pleasant, Somerville area, and here. I was sold on here immediately. My wife still wanted to check out Charleston area because we have friends up there. So when we planned our second trip here, we had planned to do half the week down here to look at areas and houses, and half the week up there to look at areas and houses. So we flew in Sunday night, threw our bags in the hotel, And we said, let's find a place to grab dinner, and then we'll just call it a night and get up early. So we went to Calhoun Street, and when I tell you, within 5 minutes of being in Calhoun Street, my wife said, we don't even need to go to Charleston anymore. I'm sold.
Wow.
That was
Okay.
it. And that is a true story. And then the next day we saw this, and it was just like, wow. Even to this day, we come here sometimes and we drink coffee on that bench over there and just look at the water, and my wife looks at me or I look at her, and I'm like, this is where we live.
Yeah. This is the spot where I come to. I hang out right over there by the church, and I just go, wow,
Yeah.
this is it.
That's
You know,
it.
we're so busy
It's
with our
amazing.
day-to-day lives, and you can just shoot down here
Yeah.
real quick and catch this view, and it
It's
brings
amazing.
it all back together as to why you're here.
Yeah.
So you've been here since 2020.
Well, we started shopping the area in 2020. We moved here
2020.
July of 21.
July of 21. So 2 years?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
2
you
years
ask
now.
my wife, she'll know probably to the day, but
Yeah.
it's about 2 years and 5 months.
So what made you want to very quickly get involved with the town politics here?
So when I first moved down here, I wanted to get involved really because the trigger for me was everything that I saw happening up north. And I made a commitment to myself and my family that I was going to get involved. I immediately got involved in a lot of the school board stuff. I started attending school board meetings, and I just saw some of the stuff that really bothered me about I just felt like there was a lot of overreach with school board and stuff that was happening in schools. I also thought that there was some infringement of parental rights and children's rights in the schools, and that bothered me a lot. And it's something that, you know, I don't think if you don't get involved, you don't really know what's happening. And you know, at that point, I told myself that I just need to be involved, and I need to know what's going on, and I need to get other people involved. So that's really, I kind of translated that into just getting involved in Bluffton because I love this place. Like, I can't think of a better place I would want to be, but I also see a trajectory that concerns me, and I don't want that to happen. I want to protect where I live, and I want to protect where my family lives.
Okay. So I want to get deeper into those reasons and
Absolutely.
what that protection is. So, and I did mention it too before we started shooting, but I said this to everybody else that I've spoken with so far. I've reached out to various Facebook groups, and I basically said, hey guys, what are your concerns? What are your issues? I'm going to talk to these folks that are running, and about 85, 90% were all the same.
Okay.
It was all the same concerns, and it was really like 5. It could be boiled down to 5 pots, basically.
Yeah.
And while they're like simple questions and only 5 things, they're kind of complex answers.
Yeah.
So it will take
It's
a little bit
usually
to go
one
through.
question with 5 different sub-questions. Right?
Exactly. And please keep in mind that everybody running does not hold a political affiliation here in the town. There's no Democrat, there's no Republican, there's no independent. It is a nonpartisan seat. And even for the mayor, which Joe is running for. So the first topic that came up was conflict of interest. There seems to be some concern where people that live here are worried that folks in power of the town can own a business and get information that they're privy to before everybody else and then financially gain from it. Do you feel like that's a problem? Do you feel like it's something that needs to be changed?
I say it's a concern. I'm not necessarily going to say it's a problem,
Yeah.
but it can be a problem, right? I'm always concerned if you're in a position to make decisions within a community that you own a business in that community that can benefit from those decisions. And for me, I don't have any conflict of interest. I work for, again, T-Mobile, and I don't have any decision-making power in this area. Like, for me, this is just where I live and where my family lives and where my friends live. My decisions or any decisions that I have influence over would be based on those people, not what can line my pockets or my family's pockets or my business.
Okay.
So yeah, I do feel that's a concern. Again, I'm not implying that Mr. Toomer has crossed that line, and I'm not implying that anyone else on our council has, but I do think that the door is that door can be opened. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. So it's a concern for me. Yes.
Okay. Another issue that came up was term limits. A lot of folks were saying different things about term limits, but overall, their concern was once you're in for too long, you can just start doing things that are only going to benefit you, and they're not going to be for the greater good of the town.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's an issue? Do you feel like we should have term limits, and what would those limits be?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about term limits for the mayor seat, but I guess it would be just like any political, any elected political position. There's always that concern of maintaining too much power for too long. Would I be against that? No, I think that's fine. I don't think anybody should have a lifelong seat at a mayor's position in any town or a town council position in any town. But it kind of goes along with what you asked before about conflict of interest. Because if you're in a position that long, do you start laying the groundwork for conflicts of interest during that time? Like if you know you have that ability to remain in that seat for as long as you can keep it, then maybe there is that potential that you can create those conflicts. So I don't know. I would be for it if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, no, it's what the people were
Yes,
asking.
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just the messenger.
Yeah.
The next one is infrastructure. It's a very varying road of, no pun intended, infrastructure. You got roads, you got land, you got houses, you have schools. We have labor shortages. So I'm going to break it down for each topic, and we'll go through it. Housing, and I'd like to start with the definition of affordable housing. Affordable housing is housing that a household can pay for while still having money left over for other necessities like food, transportation, and healthcare. That means what's considered affordable depends on a household's income. And then the federal government typically defines housing as affordable when it consumes no more than 30% of a household's income. So with that said, with the current high interest rates, high inflation, high demand, and low supply for our area, is affordable housing even possible by that definition? And do you think there's any way for us to get there?
Let me answer that question a couple different ways.
Go for it.
I don't think that the government should be involved in housing at all.
Okay.
I don't think at a federal level, at a state level, or at a local level. I think that should be dictated by the fair market. I also have a concern that once the government gets involved in housing, I feel that that's not their place, but I also feel that will at some point translate into a burden for the taxpayers of that town, city, state, whatever. Because somebody has to pay for it. If you're looking to subsidize housing, somebody has to pay for it. If you're looking to build housing, somebody has to pay for it. And unfortunately, that's usually at the expense of the other taxpayers.
Yeah.
So I don't think they should be involved at all.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, this is clearly an area that is in growth mode and has been for decades. When I look at the population of Bluffton almost 20 years ago, it was 3,300 and change. And now, there's some varying numbers based on what you consider the borders of Bluffton to be, but I've seen numbers anywhere from low 30s to over 40,000. So let's take a conservative approach to the growth. It's almost tenfold then.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 10 to 12-fold population increase. I just don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's responsible growth. I do think we need to slow it down a little bit. And if you continue to now build more housing and then build affordable housing, it brings, I think, even more dramatic growth and puts an even bigger strain on the infrastructure of this area, which I know you're going to kind of talk about next.
Yeah. So I feel like there's two types of affordable housing.
Yes.
There's just truly housing is insanely expensive down
Agreed.
here right now.
Agreed.
And then there's affordable housing for folks that would help support our town and our
Right.
infrastructure,
Right.
which would be getting some of those tax credits basically to live in these affordable housing units. How do we balance that?
I don't know.
How do we get
I
people
just-
working in this town if they can't live here?
I don't know the answer to
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's how much space do we have left here to grow that, I guess is part of the question. I mean, I think we have some surrounding areas in Beaufort County, probably Jasper County, that there's that space to grow. I think it's just tough here when you start talking about adding, thousands of homes, whether it's apartments, smaller homes, whatever that case might be. Something has to give. And I think we're at that point now where we need to really take a look at the growth in this area and take a responsible approach and say, hey, did we do too much too fast, and how much more can this area support?
Next thing that came up through the wind here is roads.
Okay.
And I don't really need to read the paper, but I just like to use it as a guide.
It's like a catch-all, right?
It is. It's about to be a blown away all. It's all about to go right into JC holding down this light stand. So basically, look, I've lived in Florida. I've lived in LA. I've seen where a lot of people move from all over the world and all over the country to one spot, and traffic becomes insane.
Yes.
And it's not just the amount of people, but it's like all the different styles of driving is what I'm getting at, right? So when you have a town like Bluffton, we got folks coming from different states, a lot of people from up north, and we all have different ways of driving, and then it creates a lot of really bad accidents, and it creates a lot, that alone, plus the volume of people, creates a lot of congestion. So I understand like our issues here. Do you feel like we have bad traffic comparatively to these other areas? And do you feel like there's a way, just real quick, a way to balance the building and the road construction? Should one come before the other?
Infrastructure should come first. You need to have it there before you even consider additional growth, because then you'll have the traffic problems that we have here. And I think a bigger problem than traffic here is the accidents. And I am very concerned. And as a parent of a 16-year-old son that's a new driver, I'm concerned for him. And I know there's a lot of parents that are concerned, because I just, the number of accidents here, I don't think I can leave work for a week and not see at least 2 or 3 accidents at some point in my travels around here. So that's a concern. I mean, I've never seen anything like that where I came from. And there was, definitely more volume of traffic where I came from than here, congestion-wise. But I think when you talk about the traffic problem here, or traffic concerns here, there's a bunch of different things to look at, because you're talking about tourism traffic during the summer months, which is different. So that's one concern. Then you're talking about daily commute traffic, which is another problem. But then you're talking about also volume, just normal day-to-day volume. And I think, as we continue, that's going to increase. All of that's going to increase. Bluffton, I think, or Hilton Head, I think, gets about 2.5 million tourists a year. That's just an insane amount of traffic, and they have to come through here. But where do we build more roads? Yeah. So do we build more roads at the expense, again, of destroying this? And that's where my concern about just continuing to build roads and all that comes from. Coming from the north, New Jersey, I've seen widening of roads throughout my whole life. And I've witnessed firsthand that it doesn't seem to ever fix the traffic problem.
Yeah.
The traffic's still there, but you just now took away private land and you took away, green space to build these roads, but it doesn't really fix the problem. So again, I think that's why we need to take a look at this differently and say, do we cap the growth in this area?
Yeah.
Because do you keep building roads? I think that fundamentally changes Bluffton if you just put more roads everywhere and more buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Totally get it. Next topic was first responders.
Okay.
A lot of people feel that law enforcement, fire, EMS, medical, what have you, they're not getting paid enough, and we don't have enough of a presence. And they believe that the pay is linked to that. What's your thoughts on the current state of the first responders, and do we need improvement?
Yes. That's a tough question. I had spoken to Sheriff Tanner when I came down here, and I know Bluffton has their own police department, but I had an open conversation with him about the pay structure for the Sheriff's Department and Bluffton Police, and he had a lot of openings, and he told me his concern was the pay. He couldn't keep people on because of the pay. Other law enforcement organizations were stealing his people because of the pay. He couldn't get people here because of the pay. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but it's definitely a pay issue. My suggestion to him was, do you have a program in place where you can get some of these people to come here from other places in the country, and kind of give them credit for their pension? It'd be basically a one-time funding towards the pension fund, and would that entice more people to come here? You would obviously have to bump up the pay a little bit, but the biggest issue that I have, and talking to law enforcement friends up north, is not really the pay as much as the time they would lose in their pension. They would love to come to this area. They would take a pay cut to come to this area. But when you talk about losing You know, when you're 15 years in on your pension, you can't just throw that away.
Yeah.
They have to stay there until.
And is
you know,
that
for
on
their
the
25
town side
years.
as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they just can't leave. So there has to be some thought into that, and
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is, but I think you have to kind of look outside the box and see what would draw people here. Is it a small increase in the pay with a you know, funding or credit towards their pension, and how does that work?
Okay. Probably the hottest topic was schools.
Yeah.
Okay. Schools are maxed out. You had mentioned it earlier, the stuff going on at schools. Teachers aren't chomping at the bit to come work here.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to think it's based off the disparity of student volume versus pay. You know, they're not getting paid enough to even be there anymore. We clearly need help in this area. What do you think the answer is to get in the balance of schools per district, right, and attracting more teachers and all the supporting staff that go along with the schools, making the pay more competitive? How can we get it done quickly?
I think during the last couple of years, part of the problem with losing teachers is everything that they were being asked to do. I think a lot of teachers lost interest in educating kids just because they were asked to do a lot of things that was outside of educating, and that, you know, COVID mandates and all that other stuff. But that goes again back to growth. Are we at the point now where we just can't sustain this? Because I know a lot of our schools in town have trailers outside the schools because the schools are already at capacity. The first year we moved down here, I had met with the principal at May River High School, and he told me that on orientation day they couldn't believe the amount of kids that were going to be in the school that year. It was 1,600. It was 1,200 the year before. So you're talking about a 400 student increase in 1 year to the next. And that's all because of the growth. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is with teachers. It's, you know, I know people that are concerned about the pay. It is too low to be a teacher. It definitely is.
Now, something else that folks brought up, you know what the donut holes of Bluffton are?
No.
Okay, donut holes. You know, I only use Westbury Park as an example because I used to live there.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I think I know what you're talking about. Okay.
It's Beaufort County.
Yes.
It's not Bluffton.
Yes.
There's a few areas,
Right.
quite a few in our town that do that. It's a pretty uncommon thing. We're not the only folks that deal with it. But do you feel like these infrastructure issues are created or could be alleviated by changing these donut holes? A lot of people were thinking that because of these things that there's folks living in Bluffton that don't pay taxes and are congesting the roads.
Absolutely.
And what are your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
I mean, I think there's right here as well, right?
Yeah.
Right up on Gothy is
I
also.
think there's
donut
one there.
hole.
Yeah,
So
I just know the one I lived in. That's
I'm
pretty
not
much
sure.
it.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure the reasoning of why that happened. When I looked at the annexation map of Bluffton, there's a list of 25 sections, right, or probably more actually, and it just has the dates that these territories and areas were annexed into Bluffton Township, and I'm not really sure why we carved out certain areas but not the rest. So yes, I do think that those sections should be annexed as part of Bluffton. It would increase the tax revenue and probably alleviate a lot of the issues that we're talking about today. But we'd have to take a look and see how many houses actually fall into those areas and then take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. Something completely unrelated to infrastructure, but it was pretty much the only true outlier in all of the questions and concerns, and I thought it was an important one because I see it happening on a national level in every town. It's a drug issue. Specifically, everything seems to be getting laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
I've said it in every interview I've done. I feel like it's a weapon being used against our country.
Definitely is.
You know, a born and raised local woman spoke up in one of the groups who was a drug user, and she's been clean for nearly a decade now, and is very active in the rehab community. And I'll quote her here. It says, it's really hard for someone to get in the doors of detox and treatment here in the Low Country without driving 2+ hours, and this issue is not slowing down. She says the coroner's office has just seen a massive spike since June. Now, I don't have those stats,
Right.
but let's just say that's true
Sounds
for now.
like she knows,
It
right?
sounds like she knows and doesn't seem far-fetched. And I'll paraphrase her question here. How can you help gap the road to recovery of drug addiction and alcohol, offer more Narcan training, and bring the community to light and show people more of the positive outcomes that come from helping folks?
In the town where I came from, the police actually ran this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be them that do something like that, but they would run just educational courses on because I think a lot of this is geared towards the kids as well, right? So they would have meetings for the parents to attend on to give guidance on how to make sure that your kids stay away from this stuff and all that. And I don't know if we do that here. I don't know if we do enough of that here.
Yeah.
But I also think obviously the drug issue is for adults as well. So I don't know where the closest drug detox center is.
Yeah. She's
And
saying
I
you have
don't
to drive
know.
2 hours
Right,
sometimes. To
and
get
I
help.
don't know what the stock of Narcan is for our police department, fire department, first aid squads and all that other stuff. But, when I think about like a review of like where the Bluffton tax money is going, I don't see why that wouldn't be a smart place to invest some money into something like that.
Yeah. I mean, have you worked in this arena before with
No.
helping folks with drugs or
No.
anything? Okay. Another one, and it kind of ties into this, what you just said, is spending. And I feel like that could be a very long video on its own.
Absolutely.
But where do you I gave everybody the opportunity of like a top 1, 2, or 3 areas that you would want to increase spending, and also where you would be like, no, we need to cut spending here.
At a town level, though.
At a town level.
Okay.
Yep.
Without having the
people
books in
ask
front of me. Yeah, without having the.
Well,
because when you look at stuff we talked about before, what money should go to, schools are off because that's county, but police department is local. So I think that if there is a gap in employment, and if there's open positions, I think we need to have money put towards the police department. They are obviously overburdened at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not any fault of their own. Again, it's because of the growth here. So obviously, police department is top. Police department, fire department, first responders. If you want to put that all into one.
You don't have to have 3.
Yeah,
But if you
I'm
said a
just-
passionate one on each side would be just interesting. It's something people wanted to know. Where would you want to focus your spending?
Yeah, obviously, and this would be more of an ongoing thing. But I think we have to kind of rebuild some of this. I mean, this is beautiful what they've done to this park now, and I know that there's plans for Oyster Factory Park over there, and I think we need to put some money into that.
Yeah.
Because that's what Bluffton really is, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my top 2.
Okay.
I'll leave you with that for now.
That's fine. I like it too. And then finally, this is back to you. That was all the people's questions. What is your platform? What are you running on? Where are you putting your focus?
My top and number one thing is we need to find a way to either dramatically, I'm not saying stop the growth entirely, because you always want to grow the community in certain aspects, and you want to make sure that the community and town maintain a strong economy and desirability, right? But I think that my number one thing is we need to pull back on what we're doing here, or at least temporarily pull back and take a look at what we're doing. One of the things that surprised me, not so much in Bluffton, but in the county, was county pulled back several years ago a fund for developers where they had to put in $9,500 for every house that they built, and it went towards schools. They pulled that back for a short time, and I think that just opened up the door for this massive explosion of development with nothing going towards the schools. So when you talk about before, like about teacher salary and stuff like that, and building additional schools, but my number one thing is we need to pull back on the growth here, between the increased traffic that some would say out of control, constant accidents, daily. There's at least one daily. I know that, whether I see it or not, it's here. Drug use is up. Crime is up. I hear so much now about cars getting broken into in gated communities and getting stolen, or they break in and take the stuff out of the car. We're just getting to that tipping point, I think, where we need to pull back and reconsider where we're going for growth in Bluffton.
Okay. And then any final words that you want people to know?
I have been, my platform is pretty clear, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I made a commitment to myself and my family that I would get involved in what was happening here, and it's not to bring my northern influences here. I genuinely love where I live, and I want to protect where I live for my family. And I think sometimes bringing in a different perspective than someone that has been here forever will help. And sometimes I think it's a really good thing to bring new blood into an area, instead of kind of doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of flack for being, the new guy, or there's some other names I've been called that I'll kind of leave out of this interview. But But my commitment is to do the right thing for this town and do the right thing for the people. I want to bring more visibility. I think we talked about this before a little bit. I don't feel that people are involved enough. I think a lot of people have that. This place is great. It's better than where I came from. I don't need to get involved. I want the people here to get more involved, just like I have over the last couple of years. Because I got to tell you, it has opened my eyes to a lot of things that are happening, whether it's in the school or in the public office. There's a lot of things that I'm learning, and there's a lot of things that I'm surprised about. So I think everybody needs to get more involved, and I want to open up that visibility.
Good. Well, Joe, I appreciate you for coming out
sir.
here, dude. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd just like to close with, again, thanking Joe, thanking the Greater Bluffton Chamber of Commerce for helping us out and get this word out, this interview and all of the others. I believe a voting person should be an informed person. It is open voting now. You can early vote now. And November 7th is voting day, but you can go vote now. So please go do it. And I also like to ask you to subscribe to the Bluffton Buzz on YouTube and on Facebook for interviews like this and many other fun people. I'm going to have you come back and we can chat.
Absolutely,
We have
man.
much more relaxed. It won't just be people's questions. We can just shoot it,
talk.
all right? Yeah, we're just
We'll
going
meet
to
for
talk.
coffee one day and hang out.
Exactly. Joe, thanks again. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us right here on the Bluffton Buzz.
Thank you.